Welcome to Money Conversations with KJ. KJ is a lifelong entrepreneur who's made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, and found his way back again. If you're looking for a sterile how-to, you're in the wrong place. KJ and his guests will walk you through real-life situations told by the people who live them, and they are as messy as they are inspiring. Each episode will offer lessons learned, advice on how to replicate successes and avoid pitfalls, and a new perspective to power your financial literacy. Far from a one-size-fits-all, this podcast can help you build a roadmap to your personal promised land. Milk and honey for some, whiskey and steak for others, and remind you that you're not alone on this journey.
Welcome back to the show. KJ here. Episode number 3. I'm rocking and rolling now, baby. So today, guys, I'm blessed to have this guy in the studio today. His name is David Ramsey. Good friend of mine. We have just been, we became friends when we met our kids day one of kindergarten. Remember that, Dave?
Absolutely. It was yesterday.
Right? And because our kids now are 21. So that's how long, right? So that's about 17 years or something. But awesome guy. Dave's going to throw some awesome information at you guys. You're going to learn some really cool stuff about his story. So Dave, since we've known each other so long, and I know your story pretty good, but every time we talk, I just learn more and more from you. It's awesome. I love conversations that we have. But today it's all about what we're going to be able to share with the people and what they can learn from both of us. You know, you're here today. I'll throw in my little tidbits, but let's talk about, Dave, since it's about money and what they're going to do, hopefully the right things and avoid the wrong things. But let's go all the way back for you. Tell me, when you were like out of high school, starting to make money, what was your mindset around money? What did you believe?
Wow. Yeah, coming out of high school, my money mentors were my parents. So I would literally go with them Friday afternoons. It was like an outing. And we would drive over to the bank. And traditionally, they would pull out an envelope. And my dad would pull out a carpenter's pencil. And they would start doing the math. How much is going to go to groceries and the bills. And then how much is going to go into savings. And then how much is pocket money. And that's what I would see. So that's what I mimicked when I first, and I was eager. I had opportunities to play sports, pass those up. I had opportunities to do social things in school, pass those up. For me, it was like, how quick can I get a job? And that was a great story too.
So that's cool because, again, most of us learn our money habits and anything about money from our parents, right? But we can also agree that, parents can only teach what parents know. And from what you just described, it sounds like budgeting, right? So you learned early, like, I'm going to the bank with Dad. He pulled out his pencil, and you didn't even probably realize at that point, this is budgeting. I'm budgeting my dollars, right, for the things that you needed to get. But that's a great lesson early because we both know statistically most people do not budget.
It's my experience, Kevin, it's generational, and it's getting worse generation after generation. And here's what I mean by that. Today, people don't even know what a savings account is, or a CD, or even understand how a CD works. I mean, and when they get it explained to them, just without all the bells and whistles and the balloons, right? When they slow down and actually do the math, they realize that they're losing money year over year. And you explain it to them in layman's terms, and the light goes on. They're like, oh, because sometimes, people are visual. I struggled with that for a long time.
I get it. When you bring that up, it reminded me, because you've been to my financial literacy workshops also. And when I talk about that, right, and that's why my workshops and everything that I do teaching financial literacy, I like to think about it as 5th grade level. Because I really truly believe that most people out there, when they start hearing financial talk, it's like a whole language they don't understand goes right over their heads. And so for me, the value I'm trying to give everybody is 5th grade level, because the game is not as complicated as you believe. It's a matter of taking action in the simplest of actions to really reap rewards down the road, right? Nothing happens overnight with finances. Everything takes time. So recognizing that early is pretty strong for you.
I'll tell you that all three of my kids have credit cards.
Okay.
That's how important it is to me, because it's America is a place that gives a person a lot of opportunity. You know, I'm fortunate enough to be first generation here in the United States. I remember my first language being Spanish. I remember, you know, my mom going through all the challenges of being a woman in the 70s and working in Los Angeles, and, you know, my dad, you know, going through his challenges. So I got to experience that and I got to live that, and I learned from it, right? I learned a certain way, but here's what I didn't do. I didn't let that be the rest of my life. I learned it, and then I remained open-minded. And when I met my wife, right, she brought on a whole different level of enlightenment on the subject. And then I was like, wait, why am I resisting? Just because it's tradition? Because
yeah, no, it's funny you bring that up. It's amazing the power of the belief system, and the belief system that goes along with tradition, things that you learn at a young age from your mom, dad, aunt, uncle, best friends, parents, whoever. And not to say that they're not trying to teach us the right things, but again, if they don't know, they can't teach, right? Sure. And the fact when you become a young adult, you're open, right? You just described what we call a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset.
Correct.
You know, and I talk about mindset a lot because I really believe it's the foundation, like building a house, right? If your foundation is weak, you're building a house of cards. That sucker's falling down.
Correct.
So the mindset is critical, and it's the number one chapter in my workshop because it's just that important. But my point is, so you, as I'm hearing it, you know, evolved from you. You had that growth mindset. You watched your dad do that. The tradition, though, from your mom, because your mom's from Mexico, right?
Correct.
So in different generation, baby boomer, early baby boomer, where, man, tell me about the stories she told you and how they handled money over there when she was growing up and building her, because I know your mom did fairly well for herself in her lifetime, but man, did she share those stories with you?
Absolutely. So I am so privileged. My mother's still with me at 89.
Sweet. That's awesome.
So it's a blessing, and it brings a smile to my face. But absolutely. Now that I've talked to, you know, probably thousands of people across the country from all walks of life, lawyers, doctors, the most intimidating, right, for a guy from Los Angeles, you know, that went to LA Unified School District, you know. After speaking to all these individuals, I realized that asking questions is a wonderful thing. And then the other thing that's really wonderful is listening. And then you couple that with action. Wow, now you're unstoppable. So I started taking action, and I go, wow, I have this amazing blessing right here next to me at my disposal, and I could talk to her every day, and I can ask her questions. And one of the best stories she told me that in recent times that comes to mind is when she was 25 years old. That puts it back in, I'm going to give you actual time. So she was, in 1952.
Yeah, early
54.
50s. Yeah.
As a young woman, my mother was met with a dilemma. Her mom came up to her, my grandmother, came up to her and said, hey, you need to help my sister. She borrowed money from a man, and now he's going to garnish her house. And my mom goes, what do you want me to do? She goes, we know you have money. Everyone knows. I need you to go pay that note and buy that house. Wow. And my mom did it. And I'm thinking that's pretty amazing for a 25-year-old woman in Mexico that even today is very male chauvinistic, right?
Right.
That she was able to do that. And not only that, she was able to come to America. And then before she turned 70, she was a multimillionaire.
Wow.
In the U.S.
Did you ever have conversations with your mom on how did she create her mindset and understand, you know, compound interest, the rule of 72, that, or was this by accident, you think, just because tradition, right? Tradition in that culture or in that era of time was really hanging on to every penny that you literally try to make and just being as frugal as possible in life.
So just to give you a little content or a little color on it, my mother was raised in the agricultural industry revolution. That's what predominated at her time in Mexico. Now it's evolved. It's more multifaceted. During that time, she was, it's interesting because I'm reading a book called The Better Half right now. So, and it touches on this and the ability that women have that's so superior. And she was trusted with a lot of different jobs. And a lot of these jobs required your basic math, adding, subtracting, multiplication, and division. And she became, to her, it was secondhand. Mm. So she figured out very quickly that, and she listened to her elders, because that's old school mentality. The rule of 72, they have a different version that maybe is a little more conservative. I'm not really familiar.
Okay.
But the rule of 72 is brilliant. And they had, because she held on to her heritage, she maintained that very rustic way of being like, no, X amount of dollars that I earn have to go. And then after that, we're going to purchase a house. And then we're going to get a duplex, and we're going to rent one, and the one's going to pay for the other. And then we're going to stack up money again, and then we're going to do it again. And then we're going to get into an apartment building. And this is the way she lived her life. And, to me, it was amazing because I'll never forget. I was always in front of them when they cashed their checks. And my mom and dad always did it together. And my dad always gave his check to his wife.
Wow.
And you know what? My dad told me too. My dad was like, listen to me, boy. Your woman is your other half. She's your partner. Okay. You pick her like you're going to war, and you want to have somebody there that's a confidant. And an interesting thing is that I had my share of girlfriends.
Right.
And when I brought my wife over, my father he looked at me and he gave the nod of approval in his own very rustic way. But yeah, definitely Myrna made an impression on, she makes an impression on everything she looks at, touches. It's amazing. I
agree. Your wife is a pretty incredible woman with some amazing talents, for sure. So real quick, I just want to I'm going to interject here for a second, because we've mentioned the rule of 72 twice. And I think there might be people out there like, what the hell is that? Right.
Sure.
So I'm going to give you a quick short version of what it means, so you guys know, which is compounding, which means the rule of 72 means how long it takes for you to double your money based on the interest it's earning. So as example, if you are earning 1% in the bank, which we're not, but let's just say you are, and you put $10,000 in there, it would take 72 years to double to 20,000. Right? Which 72 years obviously is a lifetime. So that's why it's imperative that we understand the rule of 72, because do we want to earn 1% or do we want to earn 8, 10, 12%? Right? And when the credit card companies are like, well, the interest rate on this card is 24%, how fast are they getting the return? Like 3 years. So again, that when we talk about that, that's what that means. That's a deeper, longer lesson in my teachings when I teach this stuff live. So, but anyway, let's keep going. So your story goes, but you at an early age, you started to know, and it sounds like your mom was a numbers person, which is, I'm a numbers guy, but I think we've both realized we've both have had the pleasure and the opportunity of talking to, again, thousands of people across this country. A lot of people are not numbers people. They just aren't. They don't get it. It's foreign to them.
If I had to take a guess at that, and I have done zero research on it, I think that our devices are making us weaker in the mind.
Good perspective.
Maybe,
So it's convenience, and everybody wants instant now, right? Okay, I get it. But again, tradition does have a huge factor. Tradition dictates, how we celebrate holidays, right? How we celebrate, they start picking political parties and all that, and we're definitely not going down that road. But tradition is how we get shaped, in our lives because of what our families have done, most likely generationally, right? I mean, I believe I'm an entrepreneur because my grandfather was, my father was, my uncles, I got cousins, everybody's an entrepreneur. It's just, in our DNA, so to speak. But I know plenty of people that are the opposite. Their parents they stuck out their JOBs, and that was the path they knew, and that's the path they led. And you can go either path. I'm cool with either one.
Well, you know what I believe? I believe that your social environment has a lot to do with it as well. I think we've heard the verbiage in the past where, your 5 closest friends, their income divided by 5
Right.
is your income.
Yes.
That has a lot of value. So if you're surrounded, I'll give you an example. I've been to some cities, I won't mention their names because I don't want to offend anyone, but I've been to places where people are blue collar. And when you start talking about leverage and you combine that with credit, you see a whole different side of that person. They become uncomfortable. They become defensive. You're going against the grain. Everything that, they came from debt, somewhere in their family, they went through a hard time, and those traditions carry. And when you come into town and you don't look like them, they've never seen you, you don't dress the way they dress, you don't speak the way they speak, and you're not aware of any of that, and you dismiss all that, you're not connecting. And what happens a lot of times, I think people are now, we're absent of connecting. So therefore, what stops people from actually filling out, well, okay, first stop. I want to kind of retrack a little bit. Like, you covered the 1% and the rule of 72. We didn't even touch inflation. We didn't talk about that.
Right.
And how that, and what role that plays. So let's talk to all my conservative people that are trying to get debt free.
Right.
The people that are trying to pay off the mortgage in 15 years and they don't see what's really going on. You have to take these simple things and understand them, even if you only bullet point them. You don't have to be scientific. You don't have to put on a lab coat. You just really have to. What I do, because I'm a visual person and I'm creative, and I'm, that's the way it's easiest for me, the path of least resistance for me. YouTube is my friend, and I love to watch videos because I'm a visual audio person. Is easier. Then it's easier for me to digest in the read form. But I will say this, if you do digest something in a read form, you will take it to a different level. And that's when it becomes like inside of you, ingrained, and you really understand. And I remember, I'm sorry if I'm talking way too much.
Oh, go, you're going.
But I would talk to people across the country and I would tell them, I go, listen, you're spending $15,000, $30,000, $45,000 a year on expenses out of your house, right? Just by doing these rough calculations. Why aren't you taking a free trip to Hawaii? Why aren't you buying a 80-inch TV? Why aren't you getting these services for free? And they're like, well, my neighbor does that. I go, yeah, and you qualify. How do I qualify? I go, well, step 1 is checking your credit. Step 2 is applying for credit cards. Step 3 is learning how to use them. Step 4 is understanding your FICO score. And then from there, it's just a matter of repetition and following a program. And instead of being, just flying by the edge of the seat, actually being dialed into, oh, that's right, we're going to take that, December holiday. So we have to plan we have an anchor point for our year. Now, what's January going to look like? Now, what goals do we have to set? What markers are we trying to hit? Are we trying to be more conservative? Are we trying to save energy? Are we trying to recycle? Are we trying to exercise more? It all starts to line up, but it's simple. It starts with actually slowing down.
It's funny you bring up, so with credit cards, because I've listened a lot to Dave Ramsey. I've listened a lot to Susie Orman, and both of them, right? And they're financial advisors. And I'm not your financial advisor at all. I just want to teach you how to play the game, right? Because we're all playing the game whether you realize it or not the minute you start making money. So they teach, especially Dave Ramsey, I mean, horrific, like no credit cards. He's telling you right now he doesn't have a credit score. He doesn't need a credit score, right? Well, he's done some amazing things, and I always say, listen, you follow Dave Ramsey if you're a W-2 earner. you should probably follow 95% of what he says. I'm not 100% agreement with everything he says, and he's definitely not talking to entrepreneurs. Same goes with Susie Orman, because in the world we live today, credit cards definitely can be a benefit. Can definitely be a benefit to people out there, and you've learned it very, very well, Dave. Meaning how to leverage, right? Especially when you're young, right? The fact of the matter is, people who want to try to save their way to the retirement, it's not going to happen. We need to invest our way to retirement. We need to learn how to leverage correctly and responsibly. When we hear the term credit cards are bad, right? That's what Dave Ramsey and Susan Orman are going to use those words. And I say, wait a minute. A credit card's a piece of plastic. You tell me a piece of plastic's bad. This water bottle's bad. It's plastic. No. It's the people using them irresponsibly. But using them responsibly, right? Learning how to leverage them responsibly could definitely have some great benefits, as you just mentioned. Go ahead and elaborate on that for the folks who are out there and on the fence of having them, not having them, using them, not using them.
Well, I say this. If you're going through the next 10 years of your life and you are equipped with a 401k, savings account, a college fund, insurance for your vehicles, all these different types of bills, then why would you want to look at the next 10 years of your life and under that kind of, scrutiny without an additional option? That's first thing. Second thing I would say is, if you're going to spend that capital, why wouldn't you get a return? Because it's and I can appreciate there's reasons. There's absolutely reasons. There's a lot of intimidation. There's a lot of misunderstandings. There's a lot of confusion. People don't know what cards to apply for. They don't know what their FICO score is. They don't know where to get it from. They don't know. They get intimidated by the booths because the people that are behind the booths can be aggressive. The paperwork is very, it's very small print. It's very legal jargon. So there's a lot of intimidation, but here's the reward. And this is something that, I'm big into right now. It's like, okay, you got to look ahead. And what that means is, okay, so if I qualify for this card and I do the necessary steps and I use it responsibly and I follow some simple guidelines, then I'm able to go to my destination of my choice at the end, or once or twice a year, depending on what my destination is, for free.
How?
Well, simple. You qualify for the card. Do you want me to break that down?
Yeah, give us an example. I'm not saying use your example. Just give an example of how it works so the people out there will understand.
Okay, sounds fair. I'm trying to think through my house. I'm going to go through my house and go through the different examples. Okay, great. Kids are expensive. So what we did is my son, when he was 16, we got him to become an authorized user. We built up his credit eventually, very quickly. He got his own credit card before he was 18. He would have an allowance. He would use it, swipe it. We taught him how to fill out a receipt. We taught him how to fill out a tip. And then we established his credit. He got him his 3 credit cards, and we told him, this is a breakdown. You're going to use this credit card for the gym and your miscellaneous. You're going to use this credit card for your car fuel. You're going to use this other credit card for school supplies. And we're going to gather points, and we're going to build credit, and we're going to go after the top shelf credit cards because you're brand new to credit. And within a period of 2.5 years, we were able to hit all those markers. And then he was off to university. He got a academic scholarship to the University of Auburn. And what we did is we said, you go into that administration's office, you take your Amex, and you take care of that tuition. Tuition was in the neighborhood of, it's outrageous. It was like $45,000. So I think he had a limit of 20. And what he did is he went in there and he swiped, and he put the money on, the desk of the person behind there at the school. And then he went up to his room, told his mother. She transferred the money, made an electronic deposit to American Express, opened his $20,000 up. He got on the phone, called American Express, said, hey, Any chance you can give me an extension or some kind of temporary thing? I'm trying to pay off my tuition. And they're like, sure, Mr. Nieves, how much do you need? Now, how much does he only really needed? He only needed 25,000, but we trained him to ask for 50. What's the worst thing that could happen?
Say no.
Yeah. And then what happens?
You ask for 40.
Sure. I love it. You go down in small increments, right? That's negotiations 101. So he's having this conversation. He's in Alabama. He's in a different, he's in his dorm, but he's been coached. So literally, he gets on the phone. He understands that the mindset is they work for you. You don't work for them. So if they get brief with you, you get briefer. If they're charming and fun and they're a good time, then you be a good time because they're your employee. They're a resource.
Right.
Right. So this is me talking to my son because I'm a little more creative. Like I said, my wife's more direct to the point. So he did. He asked for 50. They gave him 50. He went downstairs, paid the remaining balance. Now he has a credit card, an American Express with $50,000 limit. And he is, what did I say, 18 and a half, 19 maybe?
Right.
Definitely not 20. Now he has a $75,000 credit card. So my daughter immediately seen that at 14, and she's like, when do I get my credit card? Because I want to start getting my points. I want to go to Best Buy at the end of the year, on Black Friday and get the best deal. And I want to use my points because I have bills. Everybody has bills,
right.
So I say, turn your bills into a return. If you start looking at your days like that, I think they'll bear a lot more fruit. What that means is take each moment and leverage it. Make sure that you're giving it your all. Make sure that you're leaving an impact. Make sure that you have the ability to, I never forget a mentor of mine. This has been so relevant in my life over the last 7 days. But a mentor of mine told me, David, when you go out there and you talk to people, you have to bring your A game. And the reason why is because when you impact that person's life and you help them understand that credit is not what they think or they may misconstrue, that instead what it is an option and an opportunity. What you've now done is you've impacted 7 generations.
What do you mean by 7 generations?
Well, because for sure you're going to impact that person, whether they do good with it or bad with it, it's irrelevant.
Right.
They're going to bring something new into the house. Whoever sees that and is impacted by that, let's say hypothetically the person goes down the bad road. All right, let's start with the ugly first. They go in, they buy a Mercedes on a credit card and they make 2 payments and then they don't make any other payments. All the people that live in that apartment building, hypothetically, right, are going to look out there in that parking lot and for 48 hours, they're going to see a brand new Mercedes and they're going to be like, how in the heck did that person get that? Now the car's gone 14 days later and there's going to be a certain percentage that's going to go, aha, we knew it. Back to normal, back to regular life. But there's going to be a few that are going to go, that takes 30 grand to drive that out of the lot. How did that person in apartment B32 get their hands on 30 grand? Because if I got my hands on 30 grand, what could I do? And that's the real difference. And
so, the way you describe it, and we both know this lesson, is, there's debt out there in America, lots of different kinds of debt, right? School debt, the credit card debt. And, we learned the lesson that there's people, I hope, understand the difference between good debt and bad debt. Now, I think your son paying his college with a credit card would classify as good debt.
Absolutely.
But I think the person who went out there and bought that Mercedes with that credit card would be classified as bad debt.
Absolutely.
Right? Because good debt is if you're going in debt for something that's going to make you money, in short term, you're going to get it paid back. That's okay.
That's great.
If you go into debt for things that don't make you money, right? I think it's consumer debt. Bad. I think people I heard a story the other day on someone who got their first credit card and went on a shopping spree. And I said, well, that wasn't your money. You didn't earn it. I know, but I didn't know that back then, they told me, right? I says, well, that's why America has such huge credit card debt, because they don't understand that credit card money is there to leverage for the right things.
I wonder what goes through a person's mind. If you get a credit card or a piece of plastic with $500 and then you go out and you go to Forever 21 and you rack it up and you buy, 7 summer dresses and some shoes, what do you think is going to be the repercussion, or what happens next in their mind?
Hopefully they're thinking I think what a lot of them are thinking is, I bought $500 worth of stuff. I can pay $250 of it now. And they don't know how they're going to pay the other $250. That's where people get in trouble. So if you know that you can rack $500 up, but I have the 500, right? And I will pay it off in full before the due date. I'm fine with that, because you're building credit and you're showing responsibility. Because at the end of the day, we need credit to buy everything's big ticket items. I mean, a car in today's world, a brand new car, decent Chevrolet, whatever, $40,000, $50,000, right? You buy a house, depending on whatever city you're in, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You got to qualify for that money, and you got to have credit to do that, right? So we have to learn how to use credit wisely and leverage, right? There's a lot of investors. I use my credit cards to invest in properties with on a flip. I'll put 30, 40 grand on some credit cards, flip the property, close the deal, pay them off, rinse and repeat, do it again, right? So I think teaching the people out there the benefit of leveraging credit cards to your benefit, and like you were saying earlier, getting the right cards is really key, right? Getting the ones that are going to give you, depending what you want. If you're a traveler, let's go get those cards that give you miles. If you're a spender, let's get the money cash back, right? Or you get the points. Man, I know I use my Discover card. It always has given historically the most money cash back. And I like to use all that money. That's Christmas money, right? That's not money out of my pocket. So off of buying stuff that I'm going to buy already, flipping a house, whatever it is I'm going to be doing. So, or taking trips. I know you guys like to take trips, and you get those airline tickets. That's by spending money anyway, right?
Right. The car still needs to run on gas. I mean, I don't have even if it was an electric car, you still have to pay for the power bill, water, there's kid expenses. We can go down that road. Oh. I mean, that's $75,000 just for education.
Right.
Okay. That's just one.
That's a lot of airline tickets.
Correct. And it's all in the way you look at it, because it could cause ulcer, or you should be happy. Good for you that your child is going to a top ranked university. Good. That's a great, wonderful opportunity that you have a relationship with your child. Good. That's awesome. There's the other side of that story. You could be the type of person that's like, my life is crap. Every cent I make goes to Auburn.
Right.
Here, honey, I bought you a jersey. No, I don't want it. I got a bad attitude. Right. You know what? I want to just wallow. And a lot of people, unfortunately, we live in one of the biggest things in my eyes that I think is, I won't have anything to do with it. And it's tempting. It's the news. Not this guy.
Right.
It's not part of the program to have a good day.
But that comes back to tradition, right? It's the things they were taught when they were younger. And again, if you don't want to go down the road of credit cards, people, that's fine. No one says you have to. I do believe that, and I'm teaching my kids, we can leverage our way to wealth a lot faster than just trying to save every penny and put some of it away in type of investments. You're definitely it's definitely the longer road to financial freedom.
Absolutely.
So anytime there's tools out there at our disposal to use, but using it responsibly is going to be the big key, right? Yeah. Thinking of debt, I remember the example, think of debt as fire.
Right.
So is fire good or bad?
It all depends.
Give me an example.
Well, it's not good when it's on your skin, or when you are on fire, it's probably not good. But on a chilly night, over a starlit, sky, out in the middle of a nice national park, and you got a nice open fire, and it's permitted, and there's no danger of any fires or bears, I'm all about that fire right there, or the one to cook on too. That one's delicious fire too. I love that fire.
Exactly. So that's like fire, right? It's good and it's bad. It could save your life. It could take your life,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So I think if people can put debt into that context, right? Just visualize that for a
Hmm.
minute, guys. Just visualize fire and debt being the same, and that like you can't say one or the other is good and one or the other is bad, you know, because if Dave Ramsey will tell you 100%, zero debt, zero debt, zero debt. Don't even think about it. So he's telling you, don't get warm, don't cook that food, don't do it, eat out of the can.
Right. No, I mean, with all due respect, my opinion differs. It's funny. I was listening to your intro and I love it, by the way. I love
Right.
how upbeat it is. But it said for some it's milk and honey, and for others it's steak and whiskey. And I was like, I know where I'm at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you and I are steak and whiskey guys.
Check. That's a solid check right there. Absolutely. So there's merit to your effort. There's got to be a reward to this. And there's nothing wrong with a Mercedes, right? I remember one time I was driving with my mother-in-law and there was a very, very nice S-Class. It had all the right packaging on it. V12, of course, just the finest of the finest plush elegance. And I look over at the car and I look at it and I go, man, it's about $145,000.
Right.
And I look at my mother-in-law and I go, man, that's nice. She goes, that's beautiful. Looks like a piano. And I go, I know, huh? She goes, yeah. And I go, that's about $145,000. She goes, I would never, ever. I wouldn't, you know how many people are, I can't even, no, never. I was like, okay. She goes, you would? And I go, well, I would love to be pushed into that car due to taxes. And she goes, what? And I go, you heard me. And I go, if I'm making the amount of money that it takes me to give the IRS $145,000 and I'm able, because I was willing to leverage a credit card and hire an accountant that could give me the right document to leverage that and turn that into my write-off, I'm all about it.
It's funny you say that. It really triggers a couple of things for me. One, you're absolutely 100% right. Most of the people out there that are spending that kind of money on those vehicles, that's the exact reason they are. It's like, am I going to give it in tax money or should I enjoy this luxury? Right? Because either way, it's coming out of my pocket. Right. Either way.
But you know where it starts, right?
Where?
In my opinion, I believe it starts with credit cards.
Leveraging, right? Because there's lots of different ways to leverage. Credit cards, just one of them. And it reminded me the story of, I like to follow Grant Cardone. He's quite the character and he's amazing. And, when he got his new jet last year for $65 million, and that's the exact story he told that his accountant came to him. He's like, well, you can either give $65 million to the tax man here, or you can go purchase something large. And that gave him the permission. He goes, well, I got a nice jet now, but I'd like a bigger jet. And he went and bought himself that big old jet. It's beautiful.
It turns into a compound thing.
It does.
It just literally starts to stack on. And when you adjust the lens and you start looking at life from a different perspective, you start having these things start to compound. Just like bad things can compound, your health, your nutrition, your water intake, your sleep habits, your medications, right? Your blood pressure, all these things can compound and they could turn into a negative, right? Just like that, they can also turn into a positive. What is the determining factor? Identifying that and then really digging it out and understanding it. That I think has been very important for me over the last few months.
Well, again, this podcast is about being able to give value to the folks that are out there listening, whether, they understand what we just talked about, leveraging credit cards or not. Again, as we talk, we've been all over this country, and depending where you're from, the mindset you all have. And you guys will make all your own decisions out there. And folks, I'm definitely not here to tell you, hey, you must use credit cards to leverage to get ahead. Not by any means. It's not for everyone, right, Dave?
Absolutely not. I mean, everybody. So we all have 24 hours in a day. We all have equal opportunities. We're all created with similar abilities. Why are some people able to do things that others can't? Okay, so if I want to be absolutely clear too, if you along your journey of life have not gotten to the place where this is even trying, it's not even scratching the surface, please tune me out. It's not for you yet, and I respect that, and I respect you, and I want to meet you where you are at. But this conversation is for those people that are scratching their head going, wait a minute. I follow the program. I get all A's in class. I've never done anything wrong. I've never broken anything. I've never been a bad person. And I can't get ahead. I am stuck in quicksand. For those people, please listen up. This is important.
I agree. And again, it's probably more so for an entrepreneur than maybe the 9-to-5er who has to definitely be conservative, because you are definitely dealing with $X per month that you're bringing in, right? Versus an entrepreneur, man, I don't know if I'm making 10,000 next month or 20,000 or 3,000, right? It really varies. So it's a whole different mindset if you're the entrepreneur versus the W-2 earner. Both sides can definitely play that game for sure. And sometimes a credit card can save you because you're in between, right? And especially in today's environment, Dave, think about it, right? How many people are still unemployed? How many people do you think are living on those credit cards?
I've heard so. The current position I'm in, and it's one of the many hats that I hold. I get to interact with people that are selling and purchasing properties. I've heard a recent story where a landlord told me, I just had someone come fill out a contract and give me a year's worth of rent in one sitting. And I'm like, wow, what drove that person? What made that person do that? And it turns out that this individual was a banquet worker for the convention center, and they haven't had any work or any prospect of work. They haven't had any work since March, and they don't seem to have any prospect of work well into 2021.
Till March again, right?
Right. So there's a lot of big opportunities that they have absolutely missed on. And what his mindset was, I love where I live. I can cash out my house because I have equity in it. And I'm going to make a decision right now based on priority. And his priority was his child. He wanted his child to remain in the certain zip code he was in, and he knew that he could secure it for at least 1 year, and then he could take the other money, and I don't know what he's going to do with it. So
again, that's what I think. There's probably a lot of people in that position, because since my wife and I are agents and investors, and I keep a very good pulse on the market and what's going on out there. And prior to COVID happening in this country, 50% of households were owned free and clear.
Incredible.
50%, right?
Well,
which is the highest it's ever been in the country.
Yeah.
Because the prosperity has been so good for the last few years. And I'm not getting into politics, like Trump, hate Trump, whatever. I'm talking about reality of statistically 50% of the households in this country are paid for free and clear. And then another 25% are 50% equity. So we were sitting in history right now, time of history, in the housing department, 75% of the homes out there were either owned free and clear or at least 50% equity. That's why I don't believe we're going to see a dip for sure, right? There is a cause and effect of all this unemployment, right? But everybody, especially the banks, really learned their lessons from the downfall of 2008, and not just giving anybody a loan. But so people are and you're in that field refinancing. They got a boatload of credit. They're like, I ain't losing my house, and I don't have a job, but I got my house is basically my cash machine right now. This is going to keep me afloat until these guys figure this whole virus thing out, and I'm getting back to work. And some people are deciding that's enough, and some people have just enough equity to say, I need to sell, take this equity, pay rent off for a year, like you just told the story, which is a great strategy to do. So I think that's why the economy is trying to come back, right? If we watch the news and we see what's going on, people aren't flat broke. They are not flat broke. Not the majority of them.
It's interesting times. Just so interesting. There's so much to talk about just in that space right there. From if you look at the world, if you look at 2020 from January to now, and here's another reflection. I mean, look how fast, because we, don't dismiss the ability to get information quick. It has an effect. And just remember this. How long ago was it January? And what was the big thing that happened in January? And how many people can bring that to mind? And it was significant. But the thing is that we live in such a fluid world with information that travels so fast, and it has a definite wave that it leaves behind it, a wake.
Right.
There's good and there's bad. And I think I've already said that like 3 times, didn't I?
Well, yeah, because you're so right, though, when we say it's good and it's bad. It's just, again, it all really comes back, everything. I always say it all comes back to mindset. What is your mindset about your position and what you're going to do and what you're able to do? One, don't freak out. 2, the system isn't going to stop, right? Yeah. It's making an adjustment. Money doesn't disappear. It just exchanges hands.
Correct.
Okay. It's not disappearing. Somebody has that money.
Correct.
So I think all we can do is, like you said, every week or day, there's new information. We all have to digest it, and we're all, depending who you're taking it from, how you're going to digest that information. And now we're back to belief systems, what you believe or don't believe. But every day I know for sure every day that sun's coming up, I'm going to go out there and make my living. And now I'm going to share what I can with people like you to come out here and give some of these other folks either maybe hope, or they made an adjustment in their mindset, would be cool.
Sure.
Or they're going to change some habits with their money.
Absolutely.
Right? That's what these conversations are all about.
Yeah.
So Dave, listen, I really appreciate you coming out today. Guys, I think we can all agree Dave brought his A game today. Dave brought his A game. Again, I converse with Dave every week. So much value, so much value. So again, Dave, thanks for coming out.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate
sharing all that stuff. And you know what? Let's do it again. You want to do it again?
Absolutely.
We'll do it again. There's always stuff to talk about for sure. So guys, check it out. If you like what you learned today, please subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be releasing this podcast every Wednesday, so come on out, hear the new one that comes out once a week. Other than that, you guys have a great week, and feel free to reach out to me if you can. All right, you got any questions, got any comments, reach out to me. You can reach me at kevin@fintell.com. That's FINNTELL, and I'll shoot right back at you an email, whatever you have. Sound good? All right, guys, you take care, and I'll talk to you next week. Hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Really enjoyed making all these episodes for you. Remember, we're just having conversations with people's journey with money and the things they did right with it, the things that did wrong with it, and how did they really come about getting their mindset with money. So every episode's different. We all have a good takeaway from them. So do me a favor, hit the like button, smash the like button, and subscribe to my channel, because every episode that I do is going to be different, as all our journeys are different. So you guys take care, and we'll talk to you next week.